Hey everybody, hopefully your day is moving along all right. So I wanted to spend just a couple minutes kind of running through um, uh, some of the main topics for exam two, which is coming up in just a couple of days at this point. The format's going to be the same as it was for exam one, so 35 multiple choice true false questions, and then three short essay questions where you're asked to write an answer of at least six sentences. And as I did with the first exam, I provided kind of a rundown of most of the major topics that we've covered. So be sure to kind of work your way through this list, understand how everything connects together. So you'll need to have an idea of just kind of some of the basic facts that are covered in your textbook here, and but also be aware of some of the ideas that connect them. So some of the overarching thoughts and factors that are also going that also came into play during the lessons. So starting off with the presidency, so we have in the United States a unitary president, so that means there is one person in charge of the entire executive branch, and that person is the president. Now, there's certainly a lot of checks and balances within the president, or excuse me, within the executive branch. So the president can't control every little thing that the executive branch does, but the president's at the top of the pile. The vice president has just two constitutional roles, so have an idea of what those two things are. Types of powers, we've got three. Those are the express, the implied, and the delegated powers. So have an idea of what each of those three things mean. The Electoral College is one of the other things that makes the president unique, because the Electoral College it creates a two-step process to help elect the president. This is designed, or rather, it was designed to ensure that the entire nation is represented. So rather than having, at the time, the more populous area of the country would be the Northeast. So rather than just having the Northeast pick president after president after president after president, the Electoral College kind of forces candidates to be more acceptable to a broader spectrum of people. Right? So we have a very clear check against the president. They can't simply just come from one area of the country. We spent a lot of time talking about the different roles of the presidency, and I couched those in terms of Rossiter's six hats. So be aware of what those six hats are, and how they kind of play into the role of the president as a whole. The institutional presidency is the idea that again, the president doesn't act by him or herself, right? They're part of an institution, part of a larger organization that includes things like the cabinet and the executive office of the president, and even the White House staff, all helping to um, assist the president in carrying out their function as the top of the executive branch. The bureaucracy is hugely important, sometimes called the fourth branch of government, simply because it has a lot of influence over the regulation, making process, enforcement of different laws as well. So have an idea of the different types of bureaucracies. There are four of those types. Why we need the bureaucracy, some pros and cons behind the bureaucracy itself. Moving on to the Iron Triangles, we've got three folks involved. We have a congressional committee of some sort, we have a bureaucratic agency, and then some segment of the economy. So it could be a corporation, it could be a group of farmers, for example, something like that, right? So we've got three parts involved there. So be aware of how they interact with one another, and again, how iron triangles operate, who they help, who they hurt, that sort of thing. The federal judiciary is the third branch of government that we talked about this semester. So have an idea of where in the Constitution this particular branch is found, what it talks about, the different levels. So the district courts, the appellate courts, and then the Supreme Courts. Be able to differentiate between original and appellate jurisdiction. I'm not going to ask you to, or rather, I'm not going to provide a case, for example, and say, would this fall under the court's original or appellate jurisdiction, right? I'm not going to get into that level of detail, but be aware of those distinctions and kind of implications for each of those. When it comes to staffing the federal judiciary, we focused on judges and justices and how they come into their position. They are appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate, serving lifetime tenures, and so have an idea of what that means for the federal branch. Uh, let's see, and then finally some basic rules and protections involved in a trial setting. So um, how do courts have to operate, right? So I kind of very quickly went over the step by step within a court itself. So some of the um, um, rights of the accused, so bringing in a later lesson on civil rights and civil liberties. So these ideas that the courts are there to protect certain things and to kind of help to balance out the other two branches of government. The only court case you'll need to know in detail is going to be Marbury v. Madison. So be sure to know what those details are. The outcome of that case and how it worked to create judicial review. Looking more specifically at the Supreme Court, I've got a few items here, so I have an idea of what each of these different ideas are. So rule of four, writ of certiorari or writ of cert, the conferences, and then the different types of opinions that the Supreme Court can issue. So civil liberties, where are they found? Right there in the Bill of Rights. So I have an idea of some of the basic protections found within the Bill of Rights and what these civil liberties mean, why we should care about them, why it matters. On civil rights, again, be aware of the distinction between civil liberties and civil rights. Have an idea of where they came out of, things like that. Speaking of civil liberties, moving now into our next point on this protection. So have an idea of what each of the different amendments are. You're not going to have to know great detail on any particular amendment, but just kind of have an idea of some of the protections that they provide, that they offer. In particular, the two you will need to know more detail about are the Ninth and 10th Amendments. Have an idea of what they are, what they mean, and implications for things like federalism, the separation of powers, balancing of powers, and again, why the Ninth and 10th are so particularly important. Spend a lot of time talking about one of the Civil War amendments, the 14th in particular. So have an idea of how that changed the Bill of Rights, how it changed the purpose and function of government when it comes to the realm of civil rights itself. Be aware of what incorporation is and how now the Constitution's protections are being expanded to the states as well. And just how that functions, right? 'Cause on the surface, that sounds like a great deal. Hey, get more protections, more things to guard our rights. But there's also a lot of I don't like the word baggage, but a lot of other stuff that comes along with a lot of other implications. We'll stick with that. A lot of implications that come along with expanding the 14th Amendment. Pardon me. On political parties, we talked about some of the different types of the party systems. So single, two-party, multi-party. Have an idea of what each of those look like, what they mean, what America is relative to the rest of the world. We talked briefly about proportional and winner-take-all elections. So the winner-take-all elections are oftentimes how the United States functions. So whoever gets the most votes wins the thing. As far as periods of party development, you're not going to have to know dates on the 5 different periods, but have an idea of kind of the major question that was present in any of the given periods. Let's see, and then the four things that political parties really get involved in and how they influence governments and life in the United States as a whole. Finally, on elections and votings. Why do we care about elections? What do we need them for? What purpose do they serve in the United States? What kinds of elections do we have? I also threw the bit on the incumbency advantage here as well, just as sort of a reminder for something we talked about with the Congress. So how does being an incumbent, how does being in power help you stay in power? Also, one other point on this is participation in these elections. So, what is kind of some general trends that I refer to in the lesson, and also that your book gets into on how people tend to vote. So, with that, be sure to study. The exam needs to be completed by Friday. Let me get the dates. The 24th. It'll be Friday the 24th at 5 o'clock. It's a 90-minute exam, and be sure to take the exam using the Respondus Lockdown browser, just same exact way that you did with exam one. I'll open up another discussion board that's more related to exam two, just for any questions that you'll have to help each other out. And with that, I'll kind of dip in here and there over the next couple of days to see if I can help out. But for the most part, kind of y'all keep an eye on that. If you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help out if I can. Good luck studying. Take care. We'll see y'all later.